pretty much the same. You'll see them on a lot of the generators that are of the last 5 years or so and beyond. This is an 800 kW unit, 480 volt. It has 2 transfer switches. We have a single breaker on the generator that feeds both switches. So if you trip the breaker on the generator, you will lose both transfer switches, just so you know. There are 2 separate utility feeds to the transfer switches, so you could lose one and not the other, and be on one transfer switch and on normal power on the other. Just to mention that ahead, if you have something going on in your plant and you trip a main for some reason, that's what you'll see. The transfer switches will start and stop the generator automatically, like they all do. There are a couple of e-stops on this thing, one on the main panel, one on the inside wall. They'll both come up with the same exact alarm. We're going to go through how to reset a fault if you get one, and what to check if you see a fault, such as low coolant level. It's obvious. You check the radiator and so on. High coolant temperature, you can read the temperature on the panel, low oil pressure and so on. You need to check the levels once a week, do a walk around. They need to run, since this is a plant, I'm sure you have to have the 4 hours per month with load. I imagine either you're going to run that in a manual condition, or we're going to set up the exercise timer in the transfer switch for you. Nobody's given me any indication what you want to do there. So
all our other ones run once a week.
Right, once a week under load, usually for an hour. Yeah. So you do it automatically. You don't do it manually. Some plants want to do it manually. Some plants want to do it automatically.
I know my plant is set up automatically.
Okay.
I think they're all automatic.
All right. These transfer switches are they're called delayed transition, which means they open the breaker that they're on. They wait whatever the time delay is. It can be 2 to 5 seconds, and then they close the breaker they're going to. So the whole plant's going to go dead for that period between sources, and that's a normal condition. And what you're trying to do there is let all your motor loads decay, and to restart them from scratch, so you don't have, as motors wind down, they become generators, and you don't want that voltage and frequency running into this voltage and frequency, and you get a big high inrush peak and possibly a breaker trip for a device or a motor. So I'm sure that's why they did it. I've set the breaker to the coordination study per the engineer. Are there any questions before we start? All right, let's kind of walk through the generator house. It's pretty big in there, but we'll see how many we can get in. All right, somebody hit the light switch down there, the white one. There you go. Sure. Right now we're not in auto, and the breaker is open. If you see that, you have an alarm. We're obviously going to have at least one for not in auto. Probably be the first one you come up to. Not in automatic. I need to clear that. Generator circuit breaker open present. That's this one that feeds the 2 transfer switches in the electrical room. They're open because I wasn't asked to leave them in auto yet. Whenever that happens, we just close the breaker and so on, and that alarm will go away. But you can look at the list of alarms. It'll tell you first and last occurrence, the hours and the date that it happened, and all those things. What I like about this is it says engine. If you just punch engine, it gives you the main stuff, like what the engine temperature is. It should be between 100 and 120 degrees on the block heater. Obviously no oil pressure RPM, it's not running. Not sure why we have low battery voltage. Is the breaker on for the battery charger?
It's to the right.
The one on the right bottom. Yeah, turn it on.
That's off. Turn it on?
Yeah. Glad we saw that. That'll make a big difference. But anyway, if you want to see other data, you can roll down in this and it'll give you all the temperatures, all the pressures. It'll tell you how much fuel you're burning. We've burned 258.9 gallons of fuel with the load test and all since it got on site. I can tell you at 100% load, it burns 58 gallons an hour. I doubt you're going to be at 100% load, but that's the max it should burn. It'll tell you the load on the engine, how many times it's cranked, how many starts. and so on. Yeah. Now, this is a misnomer because it's going to read 100% throttle all the time. It doesn't have a throttle per se. It's an electronic engine, and this thing runs a fixed speed, so it doesn't drive it. Pretty much that's about all the information you need in there. Now we go to the AC side. It starts out at this screen, and it's a graph, and it gives you numbers, but you can look at load. You can also break it down individually to anything you want. You can see what the exciter's doing from the voltage regulator to the generator. It's a good way to see the status of your generator. Something might be going wrong or whatever. And then it'll give you counters for how many kW hours, kVAR hours, and so kW hours that it's running. That's the numbers so far. The rating on the generator is kind of funny. It says 800 kW and 1000 MVA. kW is volts times amps times 1732 times 0.8 equals kW. Well, kVA, they don't do the 0.8, so it's a higher number. It actually comes out to about 20% more. So anyway, you can also go here, and then that's my favorite screen because it's got everything you need on it. It's got all the engine information on the top half, and the bottom it'll have voltage, amperage, power factor, kW, and percent of load, all in one screen. So the way to remember it is you just hit that button, and then it gives you all.
What's the 0 PSI upper left?
Oil pressure.
Oil pressure.
If it's not running, would it have any? It doesn't tell you fuel pressure unless you go to the engine, and then you start going down, and you'll find here.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have fuel pressure unless it's running either, because they're mechanical pumps.
Oh, okay. Not electric.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is actually an electric pump for bleeding the fuel system. It's a purge, but it's not running unless you call for it to run. But again, that's the one I use 90% of the time. So, any questions on this? All right, we're going to hit this and piss it off. Now we're going to get that. You can silence that. Now, say we're in auto. Now we want to reset this. You just twist it, it pops out, and you hit the reset button. It's going to give you this. You have to be in stop. So it's going to say reset all events. Now we went out of auto back to not in auto. Hit that, loses the red. Then I hate this part. It's got to go through everything it did and didn't do before it lets you go back to a regular screen. Takes a few seconds. It is what it is. It's telling you things that won't reset because they're active. The maintenance interval, which shouldn't even be on, I'll turn that off. But and then it'll pop back to the screen you were on. You can acknowledge we still have a not in auto. We still have the breaker open, so you're going to have that light unless all events are gone. But just remember, if you have any sort of a red shutdown, it has to be in stop to reset or it won't reset. But it will walk you through that. And if you watch the screen, it'll tell you. We have fuel level and rupture basin. This is going to get a little bit changed the next couple days. They're going to take the sensor from this and install it there. There was an error in tank design, but and then they're going to give us the rupture basin alarm into this panel as well. You have it in two places. You'll have it from this on the outside, and he's going to go through. The guy Daryl with Veeder-Root is going to go through this with you, but that's all we have in here. We've got e-stops here and out on the outside wall, inside wall, outside wall here. I don't think there's any more, but unless you have any questions, we can go in and look at the transfer switches and kind of run through there. And
Can you fire it up?
we can.
I don't have any ears on.
Well, if we're going to fire it up, you want me to fire it up just in manual here? I mean, you can put your fingers in your ear. We can get earplugs or something. It's kind of loud.
Usually they're very loud.
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
I mean, I'm gonna keep earmuffs right there.
That's a great idea because
Two pair anyway.
as you get older, you have less follicles in your ears to lose, so you get deafer faster. But yeah, we can crank it up manual here and run it for a second if you want. And personally, I'm going to plug my ears while we do it. We're just going to hit run.
Hey, Robert, can you say? I mean, if you're in here for an hour, you may want something.
That one at the shores is awfully loud.
I'll tell you, on a hot summer day and this generator's running, it's nice in here. That air coming across is good.
Yeah, it'll, with the door shut, it'll really be fun.
The fans come on. I didn't look.
The fan's driven by the engine belts.
The electrical fans,
No, that's on a thermostat.
thermostat.
If it
Okay.
gets too hot in here, it'll
I didn't know
open.
if this crank did they automatically.
No, sir.
Because it's pulling a lot of air anyway.
Yeah, no, that's if this thing's not running and it gets too hot in the enclosure.
Yeah.
It'll actually turn on and start pulling air through.
120 degrees.
Yeah, it's adjustable. It's on the wall. I'm not sure what it's set to. It was actually on the other day. You know, it was hot enough. But,
Well, I mean,
well,
it's a white building, so that.
it's not even the building. It's after you run this and you shut it down, what's going to happen? It's going to heat soak the
heat's
room.
gonna- yeah.
Well, the engine fan's no longer running, so you're not going to cool it that way. The only other way to get the heat out of the room is that fan. Yeah. So anyway, the other thing we can do, and I'm sure you want to see it, is we can do a transfer test. And at that point, we just put this in auto. We're going to have to close this breaker. These are push buttons. On the breaker itself, it'll tell you the breaker's open, green, or if it's closed, it'll be red. And you have two buttons. There's an open and a close button. And if it doesn't charge by itself, say the charge motor goes bad, there is a charging handle, which it's already charged, so you can't do it. But you'll just rack this until it gets free, and that'll change to an OK. And then you can go. Breaker's now closed. We will have lost that circuit breaker open input from the contacts on the breaker. So now if we crank it and run it, the transfer switches see power from us. The other thing, I know this probably doesn't matter to you guys, but I put a sticker here because we had to change phase rotation to match the building, and we changed it on the top of this breaker. And I made a sticker, T1 and T2 are reversed on top of breaker to match utility at transfer switches. So it's for whoever's working, electricians or whatever. We're clockwise rotation, utility here is counterclockwise. Flip two leads and you match. So that's what we did here. So all the cabling still matches on the other end. So we wanted everything to be, brown, orange, yellow throughout, so it all matches. It's a logical place to fix it was here. Okay, we can head in there and look at the transfer switches. Well, that one, I guess. It's nice they got the door off, it's out of the way.
Right.
That's where I was yesterday.
In this setting.
Yeah, they wanted to know how to hook up the SCADA,
Gotcha.
so I will show them. Okay, this is the home screen on the transfer switch. What it tells you is, when it's green, we have power. I think this turns red, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it tells you the voltage on each phase, the frequency, and so on, and then the load side, of course. Of course, generator's not running, so 0 volts, 0 hertz. ATS is in auto, which means if you have an outage, it's ready. You can take it out of auto. If you hit the change mode button, you can do that. You can put it in manual mode, controller off, all kinds of things. You don't want to do that. So just leave it there. If you want to see if it has any alarms, that's just what it could have. None of them are highlighted, so we're good. It's got like source one fail to open or close. That means the breaker didn't change state. It either didn't close or open when this asked for it. We actually had that problem at the beginning. We fixed it. It's a minor wiring issue in the transfer switch. The other one worked perfect, so we didn't have any problems with it. If you have an alarm, try resetting all alarms and go back to the home screen. If we want to run a test, the easiest way is to go to the change mode, do an on-load test or an off-load test. Off-load means it'll just run the generator, it won't transfer. On-load means it's going to transfer, so it's a few second delay.
Nobody's going to get hurt out there working.
Now we're open, now we're closed. Yeah. So we're on generator. Now when you get done wanting to do a manual test like this, you have to hit return to auto. Then it'll start a timer. And if you want to see the timers, touch the show active timers. It has a 5-minute return to utility. Usually it's set 10 minutes minimum, but we can bypass that. So now it opened the gen breaker, and it should close that one. We're back on utility. Now we're in cool down mode. You still see voltage because the generator's still running. You got voltage here, and it shows you which source you're connected to. You can look at events like we just did. TC broadcast. It even shows that I reset all alarms just a minute ago. That's pretty cool. Not sure why that says unlocked. That shouldn't. There's a password in this, and I'm not going to give it to you because you really shouldn't be in there messing with the password. So I log out of that, which apparently somebody forgot to log out of it. Now it's locked. We gave the password to some people so they could do some work, and apparently they didn't log out. But there are things we can program and set in here, like the relay outputs and stuff that we used for the SCADA system or the building automation. They're doing the integration, and we were helping them yesterday. It's pretty much it. We can set the exerciser if you give me a time and day of the week that you want to do it, or you may want to wait until the plant's is this thing operational?
Not yet.
That's what I thought. So you don't want it running yet, so it's not necessary. Okay. So we're going to leave the generator. Yeah. So we're going to leave the generator off, so it doesn't, and the breaker open, so we don't interfere with any plant operations. And if you have an outage and need it, you can go out and restore it, and it'll pick up the buildings. Any questions? I know I talk kind of fast, but I know this stuff, and I'm.
Oh, what did you say the burn rate on fuel is?
58 gallons at 100% load per hour.
58 per hour.
At 100%.
The capacity of the tank is
Usable, it's 6,293 gallons, but usable is a little under 6,000. You get about 90%. You get 90% capacity because you can't fill it full and you can't pull it to the bottom. So 90% of whatever that is, it's in the 5,000s range. But it's a lot of fuel.
I think it's in the mid-5.
Yeah, it's I can tell you
Mid to upper.
because I'm lazy and
That was like 56.
I like calculator because
Hey, the people that Fidelity, but they used to be JRS.
yeah, it's 5,663 gallons of usable fuel.
I'm not sure.
Because they did the same thing.
Fidelity?
Yeah, remember they used to be JRS?
Yeah, it was JRS. JRS went bankrupt, and then the guy that bought the company is named it Fidelity now. Yeah. It's been a good company the whole time. They went bankrupt because they didn't get paid. Not that they didn't have good products. They
I
did.
know they didn't like to pay their bills.
All right, as you can see, when you walk up to it, you would hope that it has all functions going on. If there is an alarm, it'll either be a yellow light or a red light. A yellow light means it's a warning. Usually about the only time you're going to have that is if you got low product or a low water warning in the tank or something like that. Other than that, most of your alarms are going to be red. To silence the alarm, just come up here and hit the red button. If it was just an intermittent alarm, it'll clear, go back to all functions normal. If the alarm condition is still present, it'll still flash red and it'll tell you what the alarm is up here. At that point, you'll probably call Billy or you'll probably call me to figure out what's going on, how to clear it. It'll either be this sensor, which is going to be moved. I don't know where Fidelity's going to relocate it, but this is your probe. This is what tells you the level of the fuel. Gives your high level fuel warnings, low level fuel warnings, overfill and all that. This is your rupture basin sensor, which is right now in the wrong spot. Like I say, they'll relocate it. If you get a overfill condition, that's at 90% of the tank volume. It will go into an overfill. The external alarm on the outside of the enclosure will go into alarm. Right now it's set, it'll buzz loudly for about 1 second and shut up. We're going to extend that to whatever y'all want it to be. I promise you don't want to be the fuel driver don't want it to be long. I can promise you, he's right there by it. So, but it'll get his attention. So, anyhow, other than that, there's no printer on it, so I can't show you how to load paper. So, but that's about it. I mean, the alarms are pretty descriptive. You're only going to have a couple: overfill, low product, max volume. If he gets to vex, what's that?
Interstitial week.
Interstitial, yeah, interstitial. That will also, the interstitial sensor will also not only alarm on this console, it will set the external alarm off, and it will alarm on this console here. So,
Is that call out there?
no, there is no external communication. It's all right here.
Robert will be calling you.
So,
Well, we're gonna have, if he gets a rupture base, it's gonna close a set of contacts to us.
Right.
And the building management's gonna see it should see it on our.
so, but that's about it. So,
Other questions? You guys good with
Robert,
this?
you good?
I feel good about it.
Well, if Trent feels good.
Can we put a printer on that if we needed to?
yeah, it can get a print. And if you want to come in here and see the current inventory, you can come up here and hit function button until it says in-tank inventory. You hit step and it's going to tell you the gallons. If you hit step again, it'll tell you how many inches is in there.
All right.
So, and if you keep scrolling through there, it'll tell you how much water's in there, stuff like that. Temperature you really don't care about, but and just hit the mode button until it goes back off. So,
As far as the fuel goes, do we need to add any additives to it?
that would
Or
be
storage?
your fuel man.
We do.
So,
You do? Okay.
Billy got that shit handled.
let's see.
Yeah,
Don't
we
worry about
Just
it.
checking. I wanted to make sure.
have a polisher and we do add additive.
So,
Okay. Because that's a lot of fuel in there.
Yeah, that's when
It's off-road anyways, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Cherry flavor's cheaper, right?
There's just no
Right now?
no road
Tax-free.
on it.
it's the same
Dude,
stuff.
right
They
now?
just throw a
yeah,
tablet
if
in
it's
it.
it's just
$5
it's just a
gallon
die
yesterday when I
nowadays.
strolled
But
by
it doesn't
the,
have
You gonna invest
highway
in a
tax
diesel
on it,
truck?
federal road
Yeah, I
tax
have-
or whatever they call it.
I have that Kubota tractor though.
With that.
There's no
Just
on-road
fuel,
tax now.
no on-road tax.
That's the only difference now. Red dye and no tax.
If you get caught with this in your
And he was-
vehicle,
They caught him stealing.
big fine.
I know guys that have been running it for 20-something years
Get
in their
caught.
truck.
Get caught once and
Don't give a shit.
School buses are allowed to run it.
Yeah, well, school
Fine
buses.
system.
10-4. All right.
I use such little fuel in the tractor.